Very good morning to one and all, and a warm welcome to one and all. In this one-day international virtual conference on unlocking the potential of post-COVID digital transformations in management, Shri Vile Parle Kelavli Mandal's Usha Praveen Gandhi College of Arts, Science and Commerce, in association with IQAC, is organizing this one-day virtual conference. And I welcome all people here, the chief guest, the keynote speaker is with us for the occasion, and all the participants, all the presenters who are going to present today. Simran Elani, my final year student, is going to formally open this inaugural function for all of us. And thank you once again, all of you, for joining. And I welcome, as the convener of the conference, I welcome all of you and thank all of you for being here, sharp on time. And let's hope that we all have a very, very interactive, productive, and very fruitful day ahead. Thank you so much.
Good morning to one and all. It is lovely to have each and every one of you with us this August morning. We will start the conference with the Indian National Anthem. Kindly rise for the same.
जनगण मन अधिनायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता पंजाब सिंध गुजरात मराठा द्राविड उत्कल बंगा विंध्य हिमाचल यमुना गंगा उच्चल जलधि तरंगा तव शुभ नामे जागे तव शुभ आशीष मांगे गाहे तव जय गाथा जन गण मंगलदायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता जय हे जय हे जय हे जय 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 हे
At the outset, I would like to invite the guiding light of our college, our Honorable Principal, Dr. Anju Kapoor, to address all present here with a few words.
Hello, good morning, and welcome to all the participants, the students, and of course our esteemed chief guest. It's a pleasure and a privilege to really host an international conference in the truest sense of the word. Because we have our speakers from different parts of the world who are joining us, and also we have research papers with such a wonderful response to a wonderful theme that was chosen by the BMS department, and that was unlocking the potential of post-COVID digital transformations in management. You know, last year we were all struggling with how to survive in the lockdown, and we found our way around, and technology was the key leader that took us ahead. This year, as we are battling with reopening, I'm sure there are a greater amount of transformations digitally that we have now got accustomed to, and yet keeping those in mind, we want to get back to human engagement. Human engagement is far more motivating than any digital platform. However, with the esteemed speakers on this panel, I would like to leave most of the time for them to talk about their topic, their views, and their experiences rather in the last 1 year, sharing all of those insights with all the youngsters who have practically got so used to the digital medium, and we are only looking at you like with a name or a number. But yet, at Usha Praveen Gandhi College, we have a dynamic team. A lot of you who are in the second years have not even met some of your teachers in the non-digital world. You've only seen them digitally. So I'm going to use this opportunity and this platform to tell all of you students, especially, that digital is great, because I wouldn't have had an esteemed speaker like the chief guest, Mr. Amit Saxena, joining from Singapore. I wouldn't have Loras from joining from Dubai had it not been for this digital platform. But come back to campus soon, students, and the only way you can come back is when you have vaccinated yourself and we all feel safe being together, and that is going to be very soon. So I think next what we are going to be dealing with is getting accustomed to the opening up and the post-pandemic world. So with these few words, Usha Praveen Gandhi College is now a young 18-year-old college, very dynamic staff. My compliments to the entire BMS department, each and every staff member who has been able to get such a wonderful response. I'm told we have more than 60 research papers today, and they've had a volume of people wanting to present on a topic like that. So I'm sure your students are going to enjoy the entire day with a lot of research sharing. But before we do that, we will hand over the stage or the mic to our chief guest and the guest of honor, who will take you forward in terms of sharing their experiences that they have had in the last 1 year as an employee, as well as business owner, or maybe as an academician. And you can ask them as many questions and go forward. So thank you once again, Mr. Amit, for joining us. Thank you, Loras. And let's keep this conference, international conference, open and learn and use this opportunity to as much as we can to our advantage. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Simran, over to you for further program.
I would now request the IQAC coordinator, Mrs. Smriti Nanavati, to address everyone.
Yeah, thank you, Simran. Good morning to our principal, Dr. Anju Kapoor, the BMS coordinator and the convener of the conference, Dr. Mayur Vyas, the organizing committee members of the Department of BMS, and all the participants who are present with us today. A very good morning to our esteemed guests who have made it possible from Singapore and Dubai to join us on this virtual platform. They are going to be sharing their thoughts about digital transformations that have changed the management practices today. On behalf of the entire team of IQAC at UPG College, I welcome one and all for this virtual conference. The IQAC of UPG aims to develop a conscious and a consistent action towards improving the academic and administrative performance of the college. IQAC of UPG believes that research is an integral part of academics and allows for a broader educational experience, allowing one to explore theories and concepts by applying new thought processes through studies, analysis, and testing. As we have seen, our lives today revolve around the digital transformations that have unfolded in the past 1 year. This virtual platform is also giving us an opportunity. It's an example of this transformation. And as we have always been talking, that this transformation has been inevitable. And it has provided us opportunities in terms of lot of collaborative activities. The college has seen 2 conferences which were international and 1 conference which was national in the past 1 year during the pandemic, during the lockdown. This conference themes were around mass media and IT. It attracted around 400 participants from across the globe, where they exchanged their innovative research practices. Today's conference is also built with or developed with one such aim. It is to bring the management gurus together who would be sharing their ideas of the management practices and how the digital transformation has changed the way they actually practice that in their academics or maybe professionally. On behalf of the entire team of IQAC of our college, I wish you all the best and may you have an enriching day ahead. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, madam. I will now invite the convener of the conference and the coordinator of our BMS department, Dr. Mayur Vyas, to introduce our chief guest, Mr. Amit Saxena, and our keynote speaker, Dr. Loras Sadri.
Thank you, Simran, and a very good morning to one and all once again. It gives me immense pleasure to introduce our chief guest, Mr. Amit Saxena. Mr. Saxena is a leader in the IT and software industry across Southeast Asia. He is currently working with Salesforce in Singapore as Vice President ASEAN. Before Salesforce, he spent 13 years in Oracle and helped Oracle establish its business in the remote locations like Cambodia, Myanmar, Laos, Maldives, Nepal, Bhutan. Prior to Oracle, Mr. Saxena worked for over 6 years with a leading European IT firm, and the name of the firm was Logica CMG. And in various management positions, he is having the experience of working. Mr. Saxena has experience spanning various industries, starting out with a degree in hotel management, with his first job as a hospitality sales executive with the Taj Group in India, before moving on to banking and finally making his way to a successful career in IT in Singapore. We are really grateful, Mr. Saxena, for taking the time out to share your vast experience and knowledge with us today. We welcome you. And it also gives me immense pride and pleasure to introduce our keynote speaker for the day, Dr. Loras Sadri, a young, dynamic, and accomplished academician. Dr. Loras Sadri is currently working as a faculty and module leader at the School of Accounting at University of Birmingham, Dubai campus. He has several years of experience teaching disciplines like accountancy, economics, and finance at the undergraduate and postgraduate and professional level. And he is a gold medalist from University of Mumbai in BCom, Accounting and Finance. And after completing his MCom, specializing in accounting, Dr. Sadri successfully pursued his doctorate. He was awarded his PhD in Commerce in Business Policy and Administration in the year 2016 and was one of the youngest to achieve a doctorate from the University of Mumbai. He is also a qualified CFP professional and is a senior fellow of the Higher Education Academy UK. Apart from academia, Dr. Sadri also has industry experience working with Center for Monitoring Indian Economy and Edelweiss Securities Limited. So I would invite both our chief guest and keynote speaker to join me for a discussion on this wonderful topic that we have, unlocking the potential of post-COVID digital transformations in management. And looking at the topic itself, let me first ask Mr. Saxena, sir, how do you feel? Like, what is your, just looking at the topic itself, if you can, share your reflections that comes to your mind.
All right, thank you so much. I hope you can hear me well.
Yes, sir.
In this digital world, that's the phrase, by the way, which is spoken the maximum. I hope you can hear me well. It's actually, actually been counted. So thanks a lot for having me here. I am truly honored and humbled to be able to talk to all of you on a topic which is very close to my heart. I would like to take a step back from digital transformation, right? I would like to take a step back and talk about the tragedy which we are all facing, COVID globally. Now, this is truly a huge tragedy for mankind. But what is very important to note is that our generation, my generation, the younger generation of the students, we have not seen a tragedy of this proportion during our lifetimes. before us. There has been the Great Plague, there has been the World War, and a whole lot of other tragedies the world has gone through in its history. But for our generation, this is the first such situation. Now, there are three ways of, in my personal opinion, there are three ways in which anybody can deal with tragedy or with any adversity, right? The first one is, hunker down, like as in cover your head, wait for the storm to pass, right? Just let us not do anything. I'm sure this is not going to stay. I'm sure this whole issue which we are facing is going to pass away very fast. And once it's gone, I'll go back to my way of doing things. A lot of us, when faced with adverse situations, do absolutely do that. The second way, and interestingly, Dr. Kapoor mentioned that in her opening, is that, we will see this tragedy through. We will come up with solutions, and we will see what can be done, how we can innovate, and how we can survive this tragedy. One of the innovations, of course, is that let's get the whole campus onto online learning, on remote teaching, and all of those things. So that's the second way. Let me see how I should deal with the tragedy which I am facing, or the adverse situation which I am facing. There is a third way of dealing with with any kind of tragedy which we are faced with. And that is that once a tragedy hits us, we basically then look at what can I do to not only survive this tragedy, but come out on the other side far stronger than I ever have been. How can I learn from what this adversity is teaching me today to be much better tomorrow? So it's slightly different from the second strategy of dealing with things and seeing it out. Now, even in the business world, as well as in with countries, and I am very closely associated with at least 13 or 14 countries on a day-to-day basis, and I have seen, even at government levels, and I would not want to name specific countries, but I have seen even at government level the response to this whole tragedy being 1, 2, or 3. Right. So a lot of governments have basically thought that this is going to pass us. Let's just keep the lights on and somehow just, get on with life. Some have made, adjustments on how to improve or how to survive. And some have really taken huge steps. So the whole digital transformation, the whole change in the management thinking, using the digital platform, whoever has done that has actually done that keeping the third choice in mind, which is how do I come out better from this whole tragedy. And a lot of times we again feel that digital transformation is an IT related thing. It's a technology related thing. I again beg to differ. Digital transformation is a complete change in the management thought. It is basically, when you treat this as an IT project in any kind of organization, you are bound to fail, because you have to look at how do I change the way I operate? How do I change the way I look after my employees? How do I change the way I look after my customers? How do I innovate my entire business, using the digital platform? So you're using the digital platform to actually make a change, not necessarily that being an IT related project. Now, there have been, of course, we have been using digital platforms before COVID hit us. So there are some very obvious examples, right? Which all of, and especially all the students here probably were so used to that, like your food delivery platforms. What do you have in India? Zomato or Ziggy, if I'm confusing the names between countries. You have, the ride hailing applications, which is Uber. Now, these are businesses which are actually born on the digital platform. Now, imagine if their owners had thought of digital transformation as a technical thing or an IT related thing, the entire business would not have been born. So one of the things which I have been talking to all the CEOs and various business owners across this region over the last 1.5 years is stop looking at digital as a technical platform, start looking at it as a way of life. And I can go on and on this topic. I just, I know we will get into discussions now, Mayur, but one very different kind of an example, let me leave you all with of digital transformation, right? Onboarding of staff, whether it is for colleges, whether it is for corporations, governments, whatever. Whenever we would join a new organization, typically our day would be, we would go to that company, our photo would be clicked, we would be given a security badge, an access badge or something, we would be given the laptop, we would then the security configuration, etc. would be done, we would meet our colleagues, so on and so forth. Now, in today's world, all of this actually happens. I personally joined my current organization without ever going to the office, without ever meeting anyone. So the entire onboarding process of me getting a digital alert, clicking somewhere, which allows me to take a self picture, which automatically generates a security badge, which then asks my preferences for my laptop and things like that, sends that across to me, automatically, getting an IT engineer's appointment on my calendar before I have joined to see when is the day he or she would take me through the whole configuration. This entire process of the logistics of shipping the laptop to my home instead of a central location like the office or the college, all of this is a digital transformation which has happened because of COVID. So, and I'm sure we will discuss this more. I can go on and on, but I will just leave you with these initial thoughts. Back to you, Mayur.
Wonderful, sir. Wonderful. One line, if I just have to say, after this is, we will rise like the phoenix bird from our ashes and we will see through this pandemic. That was the strong message that Mr. Amit is, making a strong statement. But global GDP is down by almost 7.5%. 15% of young population of the world, they have lost their jobs in last 2 years' time. Businesses are redefined, in fact, by technology, new trade patterns, and transportation mainly. And 70% of the working population actually who can work from home, they in a research says that, even when the pandemic is over, they would like to work from home at least one day of the week. So our world actually, our working life, our personal life, work-life balance, everything is redefined. Dr. Sadri is with us, our keynote speaker, and Dr. Sadri, again, from his Middle East experience, from the world of accounting, economics, and finance, can throw some light on how finance industry, finance sector. Also, Dr. Sadri is having a very, very immense experience at a very young age. That is very surprising. At a very young age, immense experience in edutech and education. So probably if you can throw more light upon, finance, economics sector and education sector also, how that is getting redefined because of digitization.
Yes, good morning, everyone. I hope all of you are able to hear me. Thank you very much, Mayur. Yes, I totally resonate first with what Amit said, that this is a pandemic. There has been abrasion, there has been disruption, there has been adversity. Let me quote a very famous saying. It is not the strongest of species that survives, nor the most intelligent. It is the one that is the most adaptable to change. Let us all agree to the fact that disruption is often a catalyst for massive innovations and transformations. And yes, today we're all going to talk about the potential of digital transformation and management in the post-COVID era. Let's accept the fact that all of us have been affected in some way or the other. Some of them have lost their lives. Some of them have lost their jobs. There have been financial constraints. And I'm also sure that all are aware that this pandemic has brought about years of change within a matter of months, transforming how companies in all regions and sectors do business. I came across a very interesting McKinsey survey last year, which reported that companies have actually accelerated their digitization of key operations by 3 to 4 years because of the pandemic. It's amazing, right? What humans can achieve in this crisis. But what does all this mean for organizational management? Mayur asked a very interesting question in terms of the finance sector. Let's look at a very specific example. We all know that the pandemic has affected the GDP. Despite that, the stock market continued to have a bull run. In fact, let me give you some statistics. Why could this be so that the GDP is falling despite that the stock market was on the uprise? As per CDSL and NSDL, if you see, 1.42 crore demat accounts were opened in the previous financial year in India. That clearly shows that there was more active participation from retail investors, from domestic investors who are having faith for whatsoever reason. People wanted to have active participation in the stock market. They probably found this an opportunity. They found this pandemic an opportunity to make money in the long run. So that's something that we can take out of that. And one of the major reasons why the stock market attributed towards a bull run despite the pandemic, taking place overall. So yeah, that's something that's very much prominent. You'll also realize that companies are seeking to improve customer experience by digitization nowadays, generate new insights on customer expectation. We're all creating a cycle of sorts here. When you proactively enhance customer satisfaction, generating real-time feedback online, delivering better customer expectations, opening up revenue streams, this is making a big difference to the bottom line in the whole digital world. In fact, 92% of Indian executives also anticipate liquidity and cash flow management in the digital world to be a top priority. Naturally, companies having access to more financial resources can definitely withstand these kinds of disruptions. How can digital transformation play a role in this? That's what we need to delve further. That's what we need to understand. How can liquidity management in a digital world attribute towards a company financials, making it more better, making it more real time, making it more proactive? If you look at the education sector, what happened? There was a sudden transition to switch to the digital delivery framework. Not only the students, a lot of people from the academia were probably rattled, not so comfortable with technology. There were challenges in terms of transition. People were used to a certain method of teaching. Students were used to a certain method of learning. The whole methodology had gone for a toss, is what you would say. But despite that, we've come out strong. Now there has been a situation where people are collaborating with the international peers because of this online interaction. Admissions have increased across international universities because you can sit in one corner of the room and still complete your degree. So why not make use of that? Why not see that as a hybrid advantage in the long run, building a more robust workforce, not only from the academic side, but also from the organizational side, that helps us to develop a competitive edge. So naturally, digital transformation can play a very, very, very important role over here. So I'm pretty confident that going ahead, the adaptability is what we are looking at, is something that we are definitely bound to see, and how we can use them in this age of turbulence and come on top, that's going to be the major answer. Thank you very much. And yeah, we all hope you enjoy the rest of the conference. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sadri. And I think this is the component, this is the material that leaders are made up of. We have two global leaders, both from different parts of the world, telling the same thing, that when the world see a cloud, they see the silver lining to the cloud. A lot of businesses have already done that. My next question, in fact, is common to both of you, that are there any specific industry, which has seen the digitization or the acceleration that we are talking about? Were they faster in changing compared to others, and did they gain because of that? If so, why? And any specific industry that you both from your span of experience can think of? Starting with you, Amit, on this as a response.
Okay, interesting question. well, there are some obvious industries. So anything which was B2C, so business to consumer, have accelerated the fastest in adapting this. So the retail industry, because shopping malls in a lot of countries have been closed, and but the consumer still has to buy. So yes, things with apps like Amazon and all were already there, but this all of this has been accelerated by as mentioned earlier, by 4 to 5 years. And so retail, B2C, anything which is B2C has really accelerated. Banking and telco is the other two, which has we've started seeing a whole lot of more of online transactions and all of that happening. So that has also been really fast. I think this has to do with more and more what we are seeing is that the customer buying experience is now changing, right? So when you now want to have an integrated experience, you might be browsing online, but you want to go to a shop and still be able to be be recognized for the person you were who actually was browsing. If somebody can give you that kind of a seamless experience, still be able to go back, buy something online, get it automatically delivered when you want to, have that whole supply chain built around it. It can be picked back and taken back if you do not like something, maintain a customer profile for you, sign you on as a in whatever their frequent user programs, etc., and service you in the future. So B2C has really seen a lot of acceleration, along with, again, telco and banking from that side. I think for obvious reasons, manufacturing was, in my experience, especially in some of the more developing countries, like what I have personally seen in Indonesia, in Vietnam, in Myanmar, I have seen that the banking industry, the manufacturing industry is an area which took off slow. And again, with that probably initial mentality that this thing is going to pass us. Now they have started making changes. So while the actual manufacturing process may not necessarily be automated and people still have to go to work, but everything behind that, like finance, invoicing, billing, supply chain, collections, all of that has now actually become digital, even for manufacturing sector.
Thank you for that response. Dr. Sadri, over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Mayur. So I absolutely resonate with what Amit said. He's covered most of the sectors in terms of where the transformations were made. So let me just add on to a couple of more sectors where I personally saw the change being in that field per se. Just to follow up on the education sector, see, Mayur, you have to understand that how companies react to it, how sectors react to it is what makes a big difference. There are the ideators and then there are the doers. So we have to see how the ideation has translated into actual action. So in the education sector, there is a massive acceleration across the globe. We're not only talking about India, but across the globe, the transition to digitization was made in the education sector. COVID-19 has forced more or less every education institution for a brief period per se to switch to the online mode. In fact, before the pandemic, only 12.5% of students in India had access to smartphones. So can you imagine the kind of digitization that was required to tackle this issue? In fact, situations where students couldn't arrange computers or smartphones, there were teachers who were ill-equipped to teach online, which is a reality. And there were blogs and there were articles based on that. Admissions dropped significantly because of this transition for a brief period. But then look at the positives and how you can say government institutions reacted towards it, how the fraternity reacted towards it. There are a lot of digital initiatives now that have come up because of, or this has been accelerated. So many edtech platforms have blossomed in this. We can have a look at Diksha, which is an e-learning, consortium for students. There is e-Pathshala, Swayam. So many of these flourished during these times. And also educational bodies definitely ensured acceleration and adoption of digital technology through these. Students and teachers started to get opportunities, probably to learn from peers around the globe, not only within the classroom. In fact, if you see over the last few months, the demand for self-learning techniques has continuously risen. both the government and education institutions are giving good support to this. So I would like to say COVID-19 has definitely impacted the education sector in India and across the globe significantly, and now we are seeing the positive benefits of the same. Other sector that I would like to personally touch upon is the accounting sector. I attended a conference last time, and when we're talking about the top 5 most redundant sectors in the next 10 years, and the accounting word came again and again and again predominantly. In fact, if you look at Schneider's reports, a leading accounting and audit firm, they used artificial intelligence to dig deep into this issue. And they are saying that because of this COVID or whatever pandemic and this work from home or the hybrid situation, the growth of cloud-based accounting platforms has soared up by XYZ percentage. Many accountants have replaced their traditional accounting softwares with QuickBooks and other cloud accounting packages. So it's not restricted only to bookkeeping, but now managers or CXOs and CFOs can actually focus on proper decision making because of this. It has paved way for automation and analysis. They can dive deeper into big data, discover hidden platforms, provide advanced insight to decision makers. So overall, the accounting process will not be a cost center anymore, but in fact, by using artificial intelligence, it's going to drive key strategic decisions to enable an organization to have a competitive edge. So that is what my take on these two sectors, predominantly the accounting and the education, is.
Fantastic, fantastic. 200 plus participants and students are also attending this, and they are listening to us right now. And therefore, the next question is actually for them, on behalf of them, to both of you again, is how are companies using these digitization to handle more day-to-day functioning? Probably they'll be joining a company more like a trainee or an employee. How their work culture is going to change, their work scenario or work conditions are going to change. Probably, some of them, these young students, they are thinking that do we really have good job opportunities or not? And what are these job opportunities? Where are they lying? And how we should equip ourselves for these, new jobs which are created in such a short span of time because of the pandemic. Although we all were seeing this, acceleration coming, but this has hit us more faster than we expected because of pandemic. So in general, probably, the tips or the advice that you can give to all these youngsters who will be joining as employees and entrepreneurs of tomorrow. Starting with you, Amit.
Okay. No easy answer to that, right? There's no easy answer to how best do we prepare ourselves, what kind of jobs which we can get. The day-to-day working of all organizations has changed. We are, collaboration, which is one of the cornerstones of any organization to be successful. Now the collaboration has to happen online. So, we are not able to sit together, huddle together and come up with ideas, whiteboard things. Now we are actually doing it remotely with each other. So the day-to-day working of an organization has completely changed. As a matter of fact, I have now started, telling all my employees that I do not want to see anybody have any local document. In the sense, there should be no document in their own computers. Everything has to be shared, because that's the way collaboration now happens, right? So that we have documents which are shared across everyone, who everybody goes in and makes edits and changes. When we are making a presentation to a customer, we are basically using all these collaborative digital platforms on working with each other, which is done remotely. So that's something which is a core, which has, in a day-to-day basis, how things have changed. We've got people in remote locations. Every country is facing a different level of issues with COVID. Certain countries have lockdown, certain countries don't. How do we still seamlessly integrate how everybody is working? Again, it's a classic example of digitalization in the management at the back end. So, those are some of the areas which are on a day-to-day basis, which I am personally seeing, where digital transformation really has helped us work and thrive. I I think that the skills which a lot of us uh, have to now look at in this is that how are we more collaborative and effective communicators on whatever we are doing using this kind of a platform which we have, right? Of course, this has given birth to again very new interesting companies. The other day, a company reached out to me from the US who basically only specialize on how to speak on camera, how to basically keep the audience engaged, what are some of the things which we have to do. So those are some of the additional skills which I believe all the students need to add to their day-to-day learning. Beyond that, I would still feel, my personal opinion, of course, is that a large majority of the jobs which we had seen earlier would be there. COVID is not necessarily changing that. As Dr. Sadri said, artificial intelligence is something which is being used in the accounting software. It has accelerated, but AI is coming in and it's going to push a lot of decision making to say, hey, have you tried this? Have you tried that? Right? Again, machine learning, for example, in accounting, Dr. Sadri, is which I was seeing in one of my customers recently, that now machine learning keeps on picking up what is the typical mistake Amit, as an accountant, always makes. Okay, I always say miss out one formula, or I always add 13 plus 8 wrong. Maybe it's just me and I can't think of it correctly. Machine learning actually picks that up and it's auto correcting, it's auto throwing it back, saying check this, check this, check that. So there would be improvements in whatever career which we might choose, whether we want to be accountants, whether we want to be managers, whether we want to be marketeers, educators, whatever. So, we would be, these technologies, these transformations are definitely going to augment whatever we are doing. I think the only additional thing, as I said, which we have to learn, in my humble opinion, is how to present ourselves better remotely, because I do think that there would be a few functions now which will continue to be remote. Dr. Sadri, what do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with that, Amit. I mean, see, we have reached a stage where skill sets have taken dominance over, basic attributes. So considering we are in the age of transformation, and as you rightly said that, so I don't want to sound harsh, but it's sooner or later going to become a situation, either transform or perish. So that way you have to up your skill sets towards basic things like how to face a camera, how you can handle business remotely, how you can generate sales remotely, how you can, if you're an educator, how effectively you can, make use of as if you're a student, make the best opportunity of learning online, and what are the best takeaways that you can get. See, there are so many things that are those missing pieces which cannot be jotted down. But all we can do is take a leap of faith, make the best use of the opportunities that we have, make use of this digital transformation in the best possible manner to accelerate business growth, success. So there are a lot of examples where things have worked. If you see maybe on social media platforms, job platforms, there is a query among students as well as anxiety as well that, oh, our job opportunities are hampered now because we're in the digital world. I'm not saying that's definitely hampered. We can just look at the bright side of things. Up your skill sets. There are so many now job opportunities where you have to physically go, where you can now work remotely. So in that sense, the opportunities are also being created at a much faster pace. And there is no code software implementations and artificial intelligence, as you rightly said, machine learning, delving into financials. So the entire ecosystem and the job market is definitely going to evolve at an unprecedented speed as the world marches into probably the end of 2021 or 2022, which is the augmented reality, is what I feel.
Yeah, and to add to that, Dr. Sadri, one example I'll give you is, just me and my teams, right? I am basically a salesperson. Where I do have large teams which are, and I've had it in the past also. We've got teams in different countries. I used to travel weekly, right? So I have, since 2009, I have not spent more than 6 working days in a month in my home country, in Singapore. So I have been constantly traveling. Now, one of the first jobs which any one of you might think which should get impacted is mine, because hey, my job is that I have to pick up my bag and travel, right? Meet my customers, meet my teams, because my teams are at various locations. I have to look after their well-being. I haven't traveled since March of last year, and it's 13 or 14 months. And touch wood, I haven't seen much of a difference or decline in sales or decline in the way we have been approaching market. And I'm not talking about a specific company, different organizations, different people. So while we might think that this is going to, remote working is going to actually take away our jobs, I think it is not so much that. There are still, the human factor will always be there. But what we just have to ensure is that we augment our skills. We are able to, so we can, whatever we know, we have to ensure that we are keeping up with the times. And COVID or no COVID, that is something, as you rightly said, Dr. Sadri, it is you either, adapt or you perish. And that would have been the case irrespective of this digital transformation happening or not.
Absolutely, absolutely. And so, and I think this reality has sunk in that there is a need to actually accelerate our thoughts, our skill sets. Upskill is something that we often see. And as I mentioned again, I'm going to repeat that you need to see disruption as a catalyst for massive innovation and transformation. And that is how we can all progressively grow as a society in our respective fields. Yes, there are certain sectors, you may argue, that are impacted, where such things like, for instance, the aviation sector and all, where you just cannot do anything. It was impacted and there's no upskilling required. There's a thin line and rock bottom, finished. But the lot of sectors that flourished, as you rightly mentioned, the e-commerce sector, if you look at the health and pharmaceutical sector, they have just gone over the peak, gone over the roof. And a lot of sectors are now catching up. A lot of people have opened up demat accounts online, banking systems have gone online. The number of visits to banks have reduced drastically. And I think that trend is going to continue even during the post-COVID thing, because people now have a certain sense of confidence and belief in terms of internet banking and moving towards digitalization. So I think there is a lot of positives to take from and grow ahead.
Lovely, lovely. So all the students and youngsters who are listening, both our panelists are underlining this and telling it again and again. Upskills, just work on your skill set, and you will be required again. There is a huge demand for the new skill set, and once you have that, you will surely find an employer for yourself. Lovely, that was a great learning. But almost like 67 to 68 days of lockdown on an average that the world has seen in last 2 years. A lot of businesses, as aviation you mentioned, but a lot of local businesses also actually could not work. They were ready to work, they were equipped to work. Even technology didn't help them, to a certain extent. So my next question is then, what are the areas that we see which are returning to more traditional ways of function? Because a lot of people in India, I know, the local business people in the area that we exist here in India, we have seen that, qualified people and salaried people who had permanent jobs, they have become grocers and they have become local traders. And there was a lot of shift from the modern business to traditional business also, which was witnessed during this time. So the question is, what are the areas that are returning actually to the traditional ways of doing things? Dr. Sadri, if you can.
Yeah. So let's look at this from a reverse point of view, Mayur. When the pandemic happened, let's say March 2020, and all the, let's say, salaried employees, corporate workers, when everyone was forced to work remotely, or whatever the case may be, a lot of them were like, oh my God, now there is a thin line of balance between family time and work, and there's big disruption. I can't focus on both. And there was a lot of hue and cry about it. If you look at recent reports now, where you can say the second wave, third wave, things are about to end, and now gradually, if you see, things are improving in India as well, and gradually things are returning back. if you take out polls and statistics, people now want a hybrid model where they don't want to work 5 days of work from the corporates. They want a hybrid model where the option of work from home is available. And that is what recent reports and statistics are also saying. So that itself shows the mindset or the perceptive mindset or the receptive mindset towards hesitancy towards going back to the traditional methods. That is something that really needs to be pondered upon or delved into in terms of what, why, and when. That's maybe a different question, but this is a reality. If you interview people, or are you comfortable now going back to work again, whatever, 9 to 5, 9 to 6, 9 to 9, whatever is the timing, going back to the traditional methods, not only from a business point of view, from a salaried point of view, from an employee point of view, where you have an option of working remotely, where this entire 2 years were done, you will see that most of the statistics, polls, opinions, reports are wanting to opt for a more hybrid line of thinking, or the hybrid quantum of thinking. So that is a very interesting takeaway in terms of wanting to returning to traditional style and actually going into the traditional style. So that's one point that I would like to really add over in terms of the intention and the execution.
Thank you so much, Amit. What about, what are these kind of changes happening in your part of the world?
Yes, they are absolutely. I think the change, the changes are absolutely global. And yes, to your point, there have been a lot of shifts in what people used to traditionally do and what they are doing now. I think some of the changes are permanent, right? As Dr. Sadri is saying, some of the changes are permanent. We are definitely looking at what is it that we can do from home and what is it that we can't. And I think there are things like customer servicing, for example, is an area which has been seen can be done digitally. And, I have seen a very interesting digital innovation, or again, a platform here, which is fantastic. There are organizations, and due to confidentiality, I'm sorry, I'm not able to name companies, but there are companies where I have seen that they have implemented end-to-end digital platforms where you go, if you have purchased something, say online, the moment you kind of purchase it, it immediately, say if you have to purchase a television, and now, so you've gone online and you've purchased television. Yeah, that is happening. Automatically, there is a workforce kind of management system which gets started where, the local engineer, they use various technologies like, on maps and Google Maps and all of those other things, where you basically look at, the person who's closest to wherever the customer stays, automatically get a job alert that, this person has to complete that particular job. It is all, so, and it's done in a way, it finds out which is the engineer which is closest, it finds out which engineer has an open slot or not, it's all automatically done. And this engineer will go in, put in your television, come back. And not just that, that then gets integrated, for example, into me as a customer and my profile, right? So it gets integrated into that. And then what my buying behavior was, what were the comments I made to that service engineer, was I happy, not happy about certain things, all of that is getting mapped to me as a customer profile. So the next time when I call up that particular television company, when their customer service person picks up my phone, they actually have all of that. They also, from there, artificial intelligence also will automatically throw up what kind of products I might be interested in based on some of the comments which I made to the service engineer, right? Because I said something like, I like to sit back and I want to watch, but this much distance is not perfect or whatever. It might just throw up that, hey, this guy needs a recliner chair, something totally off, right? Which could be part of something else. So what I'm trying to say is that customer servicing a customer is now becoming so dependent on digital platforms that I think that's an area which will continue to be where it is. I'm not talking so much about working from home or not. What I'm saying is that this is a digitalization which has happened, which is irreversible. And there are similar stories in a whole lot of this. What I do think, by the way, returning purely from a business perspective, I still miss, and my team members definitely miss, being able to huddle together on certain brainstorming exercises. I think that, you know, there are things to human energy which cannot definitely be. We feed off one another's positive vibes in a room. We feed off the whole environment of energy in a room. And, you know, people are coming up with one idea or the other, and then you jump into something else. So I think that is something which will return. And I do personally, and it's purely a personal opinion, I do believe that there would be a return to office. Not everybody would always be happy working remotely, but surely a lot of places where larger cities were facing housing crunches and talent crunch because everybody was coming from outside the larger cities. Is, you know, I have seen that in Indonesia, where a lot of talent would be coming from outside of Jakarta. I see that in Thailand, where, you know, people could be living in more expensive locations in Bangkok, whereas back in their cities, in their smaller towns, it would be much more picturesque, much more easier, and they would rather work from there. So I think the talent pool has increased forever because you can now get people from various places. But certain functions which require collaboration in thinking is going to come back to the larger cities. People would be coming back to the office. Certain large deal negotiations and the way you handle other enterprise customers, whether you are an engineer, whether you're a salesperson, whether you're a manager, it doesn't matter. Dealing with large B2B kind of engagement are some of the things which I think will surely come back to the more traditional ways. But the old ways will be completely new. The old ways would not look like old ways, even if we were to go back to them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Lovely.
Just
I think
on one point in terms of like this situation, as you can say, the new is not going to be what we faced, and that's and I think most of the organization have already accepted that, and certain sectors will. I totally resonate and agree with the fact that a lot of sectors will be returning to the traditional side where collaboration is required, where physical presence is required. But also I'd like to add one point where how digital transformation has from a costing point of view, or whatever you may see, a lot of companies internationally, or even in India, there will be some examples, obviously cannot name them, but have gone from a permanent work from home model. Maybe the offices would save storage cost, rent cost, or whatever you may feel, but that is applicable only in those situations where companies can afford to have the same kind of turnover where employees are working remotely. So that's I think a massive change that we could see in very few sectors, probably in the tech sector or say so. In fact, a lot of online universities, full-fledged only online universities have been set up internationally. So that is again one good takeaway from a digital transformation point of view, a full-fledged online accredited university. So that's something. Those are some of the things in the pipeline where you may see those kinds of changes. But yeah, I totally agree to what you say, and things are going to return back towards normalcy.
Lovely, fantastic. I think since last hour or so, or less than hour, probably 45-50 minutes, we had been discussing this, and the topic is again so diverse and dynamic that we can just go on talking about it. But we will not do that because a lot of participants are there who have done some amount of research during the day into the tracks. They are going to present their papers just to create a little healthy competitive environment. We have kept a small competition for them also, so the best presenter will be identified. Of course, the closing question that I would like to put, and Dr. Sadri in his address mentioned that we are turning digital, investors are going digital, and a lot of new technology is used nowadays. So my question is, whether you are in Singapore or Dubai or Mumbai, we are all on the global platform now, but are we more vulnerable digitally? Everything is on cloud. We are interacting now too much. Our confidential information, our corporate information, our secrets, our intellectual properties, everything is there out on cloud. So are we safe and secured into this post-pandemic online world, virtual world, in the same way how we used to be? Amit?
Okay, so I would again, and I'll leave Dr. Sadri to give his view from a personal perspective. Okay, let me give the view from a corporate perspective. Absolutely, absolute resounding yes. We are much safer than we ever were. All right, and I always say this to every organization I talk to, that individually, most organizations' entire IT budget would not even be a fraction of what some of the larger cloud providers' security budget is and what they spend on R&D per year. So, yes, as an individual organization, I might say that I have a budget of, $100 million for IT in a particular year. How much of that am I allocating to security? Probably, 5%, 10%. You could be a larger organization with a $1 billion IT budget. Again, you will spend 10% of that on security. Whereas if you look at all the large cloud providers, the amount of money they spend on security, I am an absolute believer of the fact that the data is far more secure for organizations in the cloud than it necessarily is in-house. Because a lot of time data leakage is, while we all see this sensational virus attacks and hacker attacks, and you basically think that this is how data gets leaked, you would be surprised to know that that is only a small fraction of how data gets leaked. Most of the data gets leaked by the person inside. Most of the data gets leaked by the access which a database administrator in that particular organization has towards that data. The manager, whose job responsibility is changing. I could have been a manager in a particular function, and now I am a manager in a different function. And internally, I am only using a single sign-on, which means that I still have access to data which I had in my earlier role. Then I moved to a third job. Now, if I have access to these three data alone, each one of them may not have been so vulnerable for the organization. But when you put all three together, I now have an access to everything. This becomes really, really dangerous. Now, when you put your data on cloud, when you are actually using software as a service rather than software in your local computers, these are some of the things which are automatically taken care of. When you change your role from one to second, your accesses are deleted, kept, not kept. So the data security actually is leaked from all these little mistakes which organizations make. So I believe that moving to cloud is actually going to make a lot of business data far more secure than what it is. Dr. Sadri, your views on on some of the other things which Mayur mentioned about people and their data, and is it secure? I'm not sure if there's a similar line of thinking from a personal perspective also.
No, there is to a certain extent. See, I would like to put it this way. I mean, there are two components. If you see, are you going to take a proactive approach, or are you going to take a reactive approach? So it's about corporates spending for their IT services, security, encryptions, and data administrators. In terms of, so it's like on a personal or a micro level, if you see, it depends on an organization, an entity, a workforce to how much they want to, what kind of IT policies they have, what kind of encryption policies they have, what kind of cloud support software packages that they have, what kind of database management tools are there. Is there IT and encryption training given to employees? Is there IT related, secure related issues? Are they being oriented properly in terms of, see, we have to say that every coin has two sides. So if there is both a digital boom and everything going online, there is bound to be, to a certain extent, on a personal level, people have faced this, phishing scams and all those kinds of things. You get random mails of you won a lottery of $1 million, $1 billion, and people are already abreast with this pandemic. They see as a ray of hope. People who maybe not find what you can say, tech educated, would maybe fall for the trap. So at a micro level, it really depends on what kind of proactive approaches that you take, and the same applies for an organization is what I feel. Are you going for a proactive approach or a reactive approach? If something has gone wrong and the data has leaked, and now you're willing to spend on that R&D, on that IT, it's like, crying over spilt milk. But if you are having a proactive approach and having those kinds of funds being secured for your IT administrators, database training tools, tech teams, cloud packages, or whatever you may call, I totally agree with the fact that I think it's going to be much, much more secure, as you were saying.
Lovely. Thank you so much for that wonderful response. And I think we have shared enough information and insights for all our attendees to ask questions. So from here, we can actually, keep the forum open for question answer. Of course, they are all attendees and maybe they don't have access to microphone or access to chat box. But I request all the attendees, if you raise your hand, then I can take questions from you and we can give you the rights to mic or rights to camera, and then you can ask a question. So if any student, any attendee, any participant is having any question, we are open for that. You just have to show your hand, guys, and I will just, give you the rights to ask the question. Dhruv Shah, I think, wants to ask something. Dhruv Shah.
Yeah. Good morning, sir. So I wanted to ask that how do you think an MSMEs and small businesses in specific, who relatively have much lesser resources compared to the Amazons, DMart, Facebook, how can these small businesses exploit the digital transformation and adapt in order to stay relevant? Since we have seen a lot of MSMEs kind of just perish in this time. So how have they gone wrong? And with the limited amount of monetary resources which they possess, how can they exploit the digital opportunity?
Okay, let me take a stab at that. As I in the markets which I have been covering over the last many years, small and medium enterprises are a big part of the business. The largest adopters of cloud-based services, you would be surprised to know, is the SMB sector. So because large organizations, so if I'm a large bank, I might feel that, I want such a nice customized software for managing my people. I want customized software for managing my customers. So I will build my own. You have this whole attitude of, I know the best, I have large IT budgets, I can build my own. I'm not saying all large organizations have that, but they could be. Whereas, the small, medium enterprises actually had they had minimal IT applications. They were relying very minimalistically on IT in the past, okay, before COVID. They were relying a lot on, manpower waste. Now, for these organizations, all the software as a service, which is available, which is literally download the software and play it without any customization. So you may not get every little bell and whistle which you need for your industry, but 80% of the functionality which you are looking for would be there. When you are looking at, you don't need to store data remotely in your own organizations. You can now have, you have data sharing platforms which are there, and they are very, very affordable. So as a matter of fact, this whole cloud-based platforms which are now available are more relevant than SMB sector than necessarily anyone else. So people can really take advantage of that. And I am seeing a huge uptake in the SMB sector in that. Whoever is not taking advantage of that and is still relying on old traditional methods, they are the ones who are perishing. The ones who have adapted to these very affordable systems are doing pretty well.
Thank you so much for that answer. And a good friend from NM College, I think Shivani Bhatt is one of our participants. Shivani, I would request you to ask your question, and if possible, please switch on your camera also while you're asking. All right, while she is getting technically ready, we can ask Muskan Jain to ask her question. Muskan is our student, and Muskan will be asking this question. If possible, we can see you, Muskan, then it would be great to answer.
Good morning, sir. I'm so sorry I can't turn on my camera for now. But
That's fine. Go ahead with your question.
Yes, sir. I had a question. We discussed about job opportunities getting increased in this time. But what I feel is with the increase in job opportunities is the increased competition between people. And in today's time, especially where everything is online, how do you make yourself stand out from others or like have an edge over others where everyone is trying to enhance their skill sets and increase their technical knowledge?
Okay, let me answer that. See, you're right that since everything is gone remote, since everything has gone digital, obviously you can say that competition also increased, and irrespective of that, competition has increased. Okay, as you can see, there has been an upsurge in terms of the demand and very less supply of jobs. So that makes the market tight. But again, I would reiterate few things. One, what determines a job is not only the competition, but how well prepared you are for that role or for that job. Do you have that required skill set? It's not about your working digitally or working physically per se, but in terms of how you have equipped yourself, how you have upskilled yourself. Do you have it in you? Okay, so I know the competition is tough, but do you have the skill sets to crack that? Have you upskilled yourself in the last 2-3 years? What kind of add-ons that you have that others don't have? What kind of there are so many things that can make a person, right? It's your personality, it's your skill sets, it's your qualification, it's your degrees, it's your expertise, it's your internships, it's your co-curricular activities. There are so many things that to this level that you have already had an opportunity to achieve. Have you made the best use of that? If not, in the last 2 years, have you made an attempt to actually upskill that? So that's something that you need to introspect. And at the same time, given your best shot. So it's not necessary that you apply for a job. Oh, I didn't get it, so oh my God, I'm going to be sad. It's not like that. You have to keep fighting, keep upskilling yourself, keep motivating yourself. There are bound to be setbacks. Okay, there's always somebody who's going to be better than you. There's already somebody beneath you. It's as simple as that. So you have to look at the bigger picture, try to motivate yourself in that way, get whatever the required expertise is there in terms of that, take every failure or setback as a learning curve and improve from that, become a better version of yourself. And I think sooner or later that should crack the deal in terms of you getting a job or doing well in whatever sphere of life that you have. And as you would be rightly, there's no shortcut to success, right? And there's no, without hard work and without perseverance, it's not going to lead anywhere. So digital or not digital, I think we fall back on the same principles and attributes in terms of looking to upskill yourself, looking to keep and broaden your horizon, open mind, see whatever opportunity that you can get across in terms of whatever you can gather in terms of internships, degrees, upskilling courses, reading. It's a plethora of opportunities. So that's what I would like to put it.
Rightly said, and I can see that, along with the competition online, the resources to upskill yourself online also
Absolutely.
has increased.
Absolutely.
So that is going to balance it out probably. Now sitting at home and into that remote location, you have more resources with you. You have more such, avenues in which you can develop the totally new skill sets. That was the answer for you, Muskan out there. Bhavik Rugani will be asking the next question. Over to you, Bhavik.
Hello. Hello. I hope I'm audible. So my question is, sir, as you said that your work involves a lot of traveling. So after the pandemic, once you have started working from home, how has your work-life balance been changed? Has it improved or has it even worsened further? Yeah, that's my question.
I think, Amit, that question is straight away, shot at you.
Yes, absolutely. Thanks for asking that. I sometimes think, Bhavik, I'm not sure if my wife actually told you to ask that question, because that's a question I've been asked by my friends at home. Um, yes, it is true that for a lot of people, the work life, the lines have blurred between what time we start work and what time we end work, because hey, we are working from home and we are living at home, so the lines do get blurred. And it's very important, you know in my job, I of course I have a few layers of management below me. So I teach all my GMs, all the managing directors working for me, and people, the sales directors below them, and all of that, that we have to ensure that we allow our people a good work-life balance. And one of the ways to do that is that now most organizations are moving towards an outcome-driven objectives rather than, time-related, time-bound work objectives. So rather than giving a programmer saying that, I would like you to I would like you to code for the next 8 hours or 10 hours, I would basically look at saying that, okay, I want you to finish this module in the next 10 days, so that you have the flexibility on working out which module do you want to do when. So that's how work-life balances, good organizations are doing that. For me personally, nothing has changed, because I used to typically get on a flight on a Monday evening after, say, I spend the half day in Singapore. My personal time, which I could have spent with my family, was spent on the airplane. Now that time is typically spent still on camera. So I was working pretty long hours before COVID, and I'm still doing the same. So unfortunately, it hasn't improved, but luckily it hasn't worsened still.
Lovely answer, lovely answer. Last question that we are taking for this session, both Dr. Sadri and Mr. Amit, they are working from home and they have a very tight schedule. 11:30, in fact, is the next meeting scheduled for both of them. So this last question from Mansi Gogri. Mansi, if we can see you eye to eye, and then you can ask your question, it would be great. Over to you, Mansi.
Hello, everybody. Thank you, sir. I would like to ask the basic question. So many people, and particularly women and children in the rural areas, lack access to digital literacy and basic digital infrastructure. So with more technological innovation, they are being financially excluded. So how can we address that issue or solve that problem and promote financial inclusion more?
Dr. Sadri?
Yeah, I think there's some error. Are you able to hear me?
Yes, doctor.
Okay, so let's look at it this way. There is definitely an issue. Yes, I do agree with the fact that almost, you can say, 2/3 of the population also reside in the rural areas. So I think this is a step where it's not only from a micro level, but the issue also has to be seen from a macro level. So I think if you can see, because of the pandemic, the rural areas were significantly affected. You can say almost more than 32 crore students were affected because of this pandemic. And as I previously mentioned, if you can mention the stat that only 12.5% of students had access to smartphones. So you can understand the kind of impact that is there in the rural areas in the education field. And if this goes for a toss, it can really create a lot of havoc. So I think government has come out with a lot of schemes. Even if you see in the last budget, they have increased their expenditure on education in the rural areas. To promote digitization of education in the rural areas is one thing that I can say. Also, due to the closure of schools because of the pandemic, even the midday meal program was discontinued in a lot of rural areas. So that is something also to take note of. But that has again resumed because the government is trying to give full acceleration and full support on the Indian education system over here, so that so that the country progresses, right? I mean, you obviously want to see progress, you want to see growth, and with COVID, already things have taken a hit. So I think the issue not only needs to be addressed at a micro level, but this issue is a macro issue where a lot of stakeholders are taking part. There's a lot of corporate support. There's a lot of training programs. There are a lot of voluntary NGOs. There is government interest. There is influx of financial thrust in terms of budgeting and in terms of union budgets, giving importance to education in the rural areas, giving importance to digitization of education in the rural areas. So I think it's not self-sufficient, I would say, but obviously a step-by-step progress is being made in the right direction, and hopefully one fine day we see the bright light. Yeah.
Lovely, fantastic. I think that is bringing us to the end of this panel discussion, and as I said before, this can just go on and on and on. Of course, we have a very, very fruitful day ahead where tracks will be, the separation of papers will be there on the basis of the tracks, and they will be discussing according to the sub themes that the participants have chosen, their own research work and paper in detail. Thank you so much. In fact, because of the very personal connect and the very personal rapport that Dr. Kapoor is having with both of you, she has chosen to, step down from her office to my cubicle, one floor down, and she is here with me to thank you both personally for spending your time with us. And over to you, Dr. Kapoor.
Hello, Amit, and hello, Loras. Yes, I enjoyed listening to every bit of what you all were saying, right from the first word till now. And I think I must share with you that because of digitalization, again, when I started with my inaugural speech, I was in my residence, and right through while I drove and came, every word, right through, even in the elevators, I had every access to every word you all spoke. So it was really very, very, and it was making me understand that yes, this is the power of digitalization. As both of you have put in so much of passion and enthusiasm in what you all have said. And I've also seen you've left all the students with a lot of hope, that, come what may, we have to rise from these, like the ashes do rise. We will have to rise from this, and you've left them a lot of hope that there are going to be jobs, and there are going to be a lot of, unless and until we don't transform, things won't really work. But that's a very, very optimistic message you both are leaving us with, and lots of blessings to both of you for participating. Loras has been very dear to me as he spent a good part in UPG College before he moved on. And Amit, of course, I know him from really a long time. Amit, I must tell you that both of you rather, my father who's with me right now at 87, enjoyed listening to both of you on the earphones, and he was so fascinated by looking and hearing these brief topics that you all touched upon, that you helped. So your oldest student was that age today, and you've really enlightened all of us. So thank you. Have a great day. And I was always right that you two as a combination, it would be a wonderful panel discussion. I think even students will appreciate, and we'll share feedback with you. So thank you, and lots of blessings to both of you.
Thank you so much. One little tip to the teams which are going to present after this, right? So we were saying, how do we appear better like this? A small, simple tip, try and use that. We all have a tendency of looking at this. So we all have a tendency of looking at the screen at different participants when we are talking. And if I was to do that, so if I was now looking at Dr. Sadri, I'm not looking at all of you. So try to look at that little yellow, red, green light where the camera is on your laptops or whatever machine you're using, and speak looking at that. You will realize that when you're making a presentation, because Mayur was saying that there is some competitive presentations going to happen after this, do that and you will connect with your audiences far more than what you would if you are looking at them on the screen. With that, it was great talking to all of you, and all the best to all the students in their careers. Keep your spirits high. This tragedy is only going to make us come out stronger and better than we ever were. Thank you.
Lovely, wonderful. Thank you so much. That was such a nice tip in the last few seconds. Also, every second of this session was actually, so much of learning. It was filled with so much of information, so much of encouragement, as Anju ma'am has also rightly mentioned. So thank you both once again for being with us. And yes, a round of applause, in fact, wherever you are, on behalf of all of you. Simran, as we are closing this inaugural session now, over to you for formal closing.
Firstly, Amit sir, duly noted, looking at the camera. I would like to thank our chief guest, Mr. Amit Saxena, keynote speaker, Dr. Laura Sadri, and the wonderful moderator, Dr. Mayur Ryas, for this meaningful and enlightening session. We understood and we got to delve into various aspects associated with the theme of the conference. The discussion shed light on many areas. It gave us an international perspective on the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic and of the various opportunities that have arisen in the post-COVID era. We shall now call a close to this fruitful session. I'll proceed to request all the researchers to log into their respective meetings so as to begin their presentations.
For all the participants, simple instruction that we are meeting at 11:30 in your respective tracks, and please join that so that we can start with your presentations. Both are moderators for the presentation, are judges for the presentation. Dr. Abdul Qadir Khan and Ms. Tehreem Birdi, they are going to join us. And once again, thank you all the participants. Thank you, Simran, for that wonderful hosting. Thank you, our chief guest and our keynote speaker also. And let's all have a very, very learning day ahead. Thank you so much.